How to hit cardio to lose belly fat. Losing belly fat requires you to do the basics right. Caloric deficit, check. Macronutrient balance, check. A good training program focusing on progressive overload with adequate training frequency and more. In my first few months of training, I would do 1 hour of high intensity interval cardio, then eat McDonald's right after. As you can see, I would burn 3,000 calories in total at the end of the day. But because my diet wasn't in check, I could easily eat 4,500 calories, leaving those extra 1,500 calories to be stored as fat. That being said, let's see how HIIT can help you lose belly fat. High intensity interval training, or sprint interval training, is a form of interval training. It's a cardiovascular exercise strategy alternating short periods of intense anaerobic exercise, basically going as hard as you can, with less intense recovery periods where you catch your breath until you're too exhausted to continue. High intensity interval training is not the big secret to fat loss. However, it can be a powerful weight loss tool when you know how to use it. In this video, I'll be showing you why it's a great fat loss tool. But before we dive in, a lot of research and editing goes into making a video like this. I work my ass off. Just do me one favor, if you wouldn't mind, gently hit the like button. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you enjoy this kind of content, subscribe and hit the notification bell if you're new. Let's kick it off. How intense should your high intensity interval training be? In scientific literature, with regards to HIIT, there's a reference to an important term, VO2 max, also known as the maximal oxygen uptake. It is the measurement of the maximum amount of oxygen a person can utilize during intense exercise. Research has shown that you need to reach between 80 and 100% of your VO2 max during your HIIT to reap majority of HIIT's benefits. That being said, it's difficult to approximate your VO2 max. Simply stated, when you fall between 80 and 100% of your VO2 max is when you can't bring in as much air as your body wants. It should be close to impossible to hold a conversation while running at this stage. In reality, this is typically 90% of your VO2 max. In my experience, my heart rate is anywhere between 140 to 170 beats per minute when my VO2 max is between 80 to 100%. HIIT 101. Number 1, your goal during HIIT is to reach 80% of your VO2 max and sustain it. Number 2, the overall effectiveness of your HIIT depends on the total amount of time you spend at that level of your VO2 max. HIIT exercise 1 and 2, treadmill or assault treadmill. How to properly do HIIT on these machines. I would start at 30-second sprints with 60-second rest intervals. So I'd sprint at 17 kilometers per hour for 30 seconds. That's 80% of my VO2 max. And then 6 kilometers per hour for 60 seconds and repeat. As your body adapts, when you feel you've mastered the beginner phase or it's not challenging anymore, move on to 60-second sprints at 17 kilometers per hour and 60 seconds rest at 6 kilometers per hour. The 3 ways you can make HIIT harder is 1. Increase the length of the high intensity intervals. 2. Decrease the length of the rest periods. 3. Increase the speeds at both intervals. With both of these exercises, you burn a tremendous amount of calories in a short period. Why I've placed these exercises first is because it's very likely in your gym you can use any of these 2 machines to help you burn that fat. Here's a perfect example. My clients Fernando and James use the same HIIT technique, a combination of a good diet and appropriate cardio that helped them drop over 20 pounds each in 3 months. It can be very taxing on the body, but it does have tremendous benefits. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, help you with a similar transformation, you can book a free call with me. The link is in the description. High intensity interval training and burning fat. Research has shown that both fat and carbohydrates are burnt and the proportions vary with the intensity of the exercise. It also shows as exercise intensity increases, so does the reliance upon muscle glycogen for energy over fat stores. As the exercise gets more intense, so does the proportion of energy coming from glycogen compared to fat. This is why a very low intensity activity like walking taps mainly into fat stores, whereas high intensity sprints pull much more heavily from carbohydrate stores, also known as your glycogen. However, Multiple studies, such as those conducted by Laval University, East Tennessee State University, Baylor College of Medicine, and the University of New South Wales, show otherwise. The research specifically shows that the results reinforce the notion that for a given level of energy expenditure, vigorous exercise favors negative energy and lipid balance to a greater extent than exercise of low to moderate intensity. Long story short, with regards to fat loss, high-intensity interval training allows you to burn more calories in a shorter period of time compared to low-intensity steady-state cardio. This can affect your overall fat balance at the end of the day. The major downside is that it's difficult to recover from. In my experience, I find the next day to be difficult to complete my daily tasks, especially with training and cardio. A study conducted by the University of Western Ontario took two groups, a group of 20 people, men and women, who trained 3 times per week. Group 1 did 4 to 6 30-second sprints on the treadmill with 4 to 6 minute rests between each set. Group 2 did 30 to 60 minutes of steady-state cardio running at 65% of their VO2 max. The sprint interval group lost 1.7 kgs of body fat, which is 12.4% of their total fat mass, where their endurance training group lost only 0.8 kilograms, that's 5.8%. This study showed that there was a significant improvement in aerobic fitness, improved insulin sensitivity in the muscles, higher levels of fat oxidation in the muscles as well, significant spikes in growth hormone levels, which aid in fat loss, and catecholamine levels, which are chemicals your body produces to mobilize fat stores for burning, and also your post-exercise appetite is suppressed. HIIT and your muscles. It is well understood that concurrent training, when you do strength and endurance, can hinder your strength and muscle gains compared to just strength training alone. This was also shown in research done by Jacob and colleagues. In the graph, concurrent training had a diminished effect on size as compared to strength training alone. Studies have also shown that the duration of cardio sessions impairs strength and muscle growth. That being said, it's not the cardio that impairs muscle growth, but too much cardio can provide a negative effect. The old, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. 2 things to consider when you're building your own HIIT routine. Number 1 is the duration of the individual cardio sessions. Number 2 is the total amount of HIIT done during the week. For the purpose of this video, I've chosen sprint interval as the form of HIIT cardio. However, rowing, biking are great alternatives and many more. Do note that other forms of cardio are fine to utilize. The only thing you should be mindful of is not doing too much. Before I share my entire blueprint to use HIIT to lose belly fat, please do me one favor. Comment down below what your caloric intake is and macros, and what your current cardio is looking like, and I'll give you some advice. Also, you can just comment anything and I'll greatly appreciate that. Like the video, it helps this channel tremendously. That's the best thing you can do for me and this channel. That being said, also subscribe. Now, HIIT and burning belly fat. The one mistake I see many people do is introducing HIIT too quickly. So in my first 4 weeks of my dieting phase, I don't introduce HIIT. I set a base minimum of walking 8,000 steps. This way I can guarantee a certain level of being active, and also, as I did mention, walking taps mainly into fat stores. And I then focus mostly on my diet, as this has a greater effect with my level of fat loss versus introducing HIIT too early. As I move from week 5 to 8, I then slowly start introducing HIIT if I'm not satisfied with the level of fat loss that I'm achieving, or I don't have time. So what I would do is, in my first session of HIIT in my first week, I would do 15 minutes of HIIT. That would include 5 minutes of a warm-up and 10 minutes of high intensity interval training. And as the weeks go by, you can play around and increase the number of steps you're accumulating. But if you're short for time, then you can start increasing the amount of HIIT you're doing from 15 to 20 minutes, even 30 minutes, and then also start introducing more sessions during the week. As you go through an entire 16-week program, you will find that you're burning overall more calories towards the end and likely reaching your goals. This obviously in combination with figuring out how many calories you're eating. So what I like to do as I go through my entire 16-week prep, I sometimes take a little away from food, or I start increasing my activity. So you think of it this way: increase activity, or decrease caloric intake. And based on what your current situation is, how much time you have, I decide based on that. But towards the end, and I'll be very honest, when I am doing competition prep, I'm trying to get rid of those last little bits of belly fat. I then do increase my HIIT, maybe 4 to 5 sessions within a week. I also utilize certain supplements that help me with my energy levels at those stages. Number 1 is caffeine, likely Oxy, Shred, and Pride. I'm making sure that I'm able to retain as much muscle mass as possible. In this case, I'm using essential amino acids from EHP Labs as well. And I'm making sure that I have adequate amount of protein intake to also make sure I'm likely in balance with my muscle protein synthesis. All the supplements I've mentioned, it's linked in the description below. If you use my discount code DIAMONDS10, that directly supports me. I'll leave the video here. Let me know if it was helpful. Let me know, give me any feedback in the comments. I'll appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Like the video, comment down below, subscribe, and peace.